Doctor Who, Clara Goes to Subway, a cursed fanfic by Will Maddox, read by Zach Jordan. Clara was getting hungry. The search for Trap Street was long and tedious. She may have enjoyed the thrill of helping the Doctor to save the day, but any instance where the adventure ended up with her having to trudge through the mundane streets of everyday Earth, especially London, were not her favourite. Oh, of course, Riggsy's life was on the line, so there was some tension, but without the excitement of running from aliens or invading spaceships overhead, there was little outside stimulus. And counting her footsteps for what felt like an eternity was starting to take a toll on her concentration. Thus, her mind wandered to her stomach. She was getting hungry. Eventually, it became overwhelming, and the urgency of Riggsy's predicament started to take a back seat to the need to eat. Maybe she had earned a lunch break. She'd searched what felt like a dozen streets by this point. She could afford to stop off for a quick bite. But where? Despite being the most populated area in the UK with a myriad of famous branded food chains taking advantage of its visitors' wallets, this particular area felt bizarrely devoid of restaurants, or even regular corner shops. Just charity shops, clothes stores, and laundrettes as far as the eye could see. Wait, was that? Yes! She saw a familiar sign in the distance. A Subway! Perfect choice! As soon as her eyes met that comforting logo that foretold the promise of an utterly delectable feast, she began craving a footlong. By this point, the adventure of the day had already been temporarily pushed to the back of her mind. "Sorry, you clever boy," she said longingly to the disappointed mental image of the Doctor in her mind. "I've got to have a quick bite." She began confidently strolling over to that fine establishment dominating her every sense and desire. It was a slow day. It was totally worth it, Lisa Rogers thought to herself sarcastically. She was feeling particularly groggy this morning from the hangover, and was oh so tempted to call in for a sick day, but nope. That guilty sense of civic duty kicked in, and she pulled herself together for the expected busy shift ahead. But bizarrely, the Subway had barely received any customers all day. Strange. There was usually a long queue extending from the counter all the way to the door, but today, zilch. No one. Nothing. And yet, there was a sense of anticipation in the air, like a very special customer was about to attend, and all others instinctually felt it would be rude to slow their progress. Lisa shook her head. The migraine of the hangover was kicking in again, and it was getting hard to concentrate. She winced, rubbing her temples to soothe her attention back to reality, and when she was back in the room, she saw a customer ahead of her. A lady, brunette, mid to late 20s, fetching blue jumper and lace combo. Quite a sophisticated look for the London scene. "You all right?" asked the woman, concern in her voice. Ah, damn. She'd noticed Lisa's brief spell. Oh, fine, thanks. It's just the hangover," Lisa responded, mustering up as much professionalism as she could in that off-guard moment. "Anyway, what can I do for you, love?" The puzzled concern faded from the customer's face with Lisa's reassurance, replaced with a relieved smile. Let me think, she pondered, finger on her cheek in contemplation. Could I have white bread, footlong with, chicken, bacon, cheese, with, olives and some onions? Lisa got to work, arranging the meal in the order the customer requested. White bread, footlong, chicken, bacon. Olives are running a bit low, but there was still just enough for this order. No onion, though. And finally, some cheese slices to adorn the meal. "No onions, I'm afraid," Lisa said, to the mild disappointment of her customer. Wanting to make up for this minor letdown, she added, "Sauces, miss?" Just some mayo, please," the customer responded eagerly. "Oh, and you can call me Clara." Lisa was taken off guard by how forthcoming this customer seemed, and yet it was also strangely comforting. She just had this disarming aura about her.
Oh, lovely name, Clara.
A flustered Lisa replied after a brief pause, during which she applied the mayo.
Would you also like it toasted? Oh, absolutely.
Clara grinned, taking her purse out of her pocket to pay. After the exchange was done, Clara took her meal and went to sit down at a table near the window. The warmth of the footlong permeated through its surrounding wrapping and caressed Clara's fingers, making her hunger for the approaching feast ever stronger. As she settled down on her seat, she eagerly undressed her meal and gazed on its naked form. The cheese had melted and merged with the mayo into succulent pools adorning the crispy bacon slices. The olives glistened in the sunlight coming through the nearby window, and the aroma of the chicken pieces pressed deeply into the bread was only spurring on her temptation. A twinge of guilt crossed her mind. She could still envision the doctor's cross face. How furious he'd be that she insisted so hard on helping Rigsy in this life or death situation, only to then gallivant off to a fast food establishment and stuff her face. But she shook it off. She wasn't intimidated by those attack eyebrows he prided himself on. And besides, it's not like she was done for the day. She'd get straight back to work as soon as she was finished. And the doctor would probably be none the wiser anyway. Besides, her food was still cooling to her. She couldn't wait any longer. She brought the sheer perfection she had yearned for to her mouth and took a big, crunchy bite. It was like an explosion of the most immaculate and divine flavors ever conceived, and Clara had the honor of experiencing it firsthand. Her incisors went to work, tearing at the juicy pieces of chicken, and a waterfall was encouraged from the salivary glands to help consume this perfect delicacy. The sea of melted cheese and mayo poured onto her tongue, and she greedily gulped at it. As her molars dealt with the olives, it was heaven. Clara had seen many places and bore witness to many beautiful sights and experiences, but none of them, no, not one, held a candle to the impeccable supernova of taste she was experiencing right now. There were simply no other words to describe it. There was no holding back. Clara simply couldn't resist, as she abandoned any sense of dignity and started taking ravenous, almost vicious bites out of the footlong. Her entire concentration focused on devouring her food. It was messy. Crumbs were cascading from the base of the bread, and Clara's carelessly frantic eating caused mayo to smear over the corner of her mouth. Despite barely being halfway into her lunch, Clara was already starting to feel full. She felt alarmed at this, but she kept on going. She couldn't afford to spend too long in this meal, or the doctor and Rigsy might meet up before her and get suspicious. And also, this meal was too perfect to abandon. Maybe she should have gone for a regular 6-incher? A footlong may have been too much, perhaps. Whatever, Clara thought to herself optimistically. I'll reach the end of it. The long way round. The fucking end! Fuck you!